A German police officer stands in a barn in Belarus. In his hands, not a shot put, but a machine gun. 7 years ago, Hitler personally shook this man's hand. Now he's about to burn 75 children alive. His name was Hans Welka. And this is the story of how the Third Reich turned Olympic gold into mass murder. August 2, 1936. Berlin Olympic Stadium. 100,000 spectators. Adolf Hitler in his box, watching. A 25-year-old cop from East Prussia steps into the shot-put circle. He's not supposed to win. Finland's champion just broke the Olympic record. This German patrolman, Hans Welka, has one throw left. He picks up the iron ball. 16 meters, 20 centimeters. New Olympic record. Hitler rises from his seat. That night, he'll shake Welka's hand personally. Himmler promotes him to lieutenant on the spot. Cameras capture everything. By morning, his face is on every newspaper in Germany. They call him the Golden Arm. What Welka doesn't know, what he can't know, is that within 7 years, that Golden Arm will carry a sidearm through burning villages. And the manner of his death will seal the fate of 149 people. 75 of them children. But here's what nobody tells you about the Holocaust in Eastern Europe. The death camps, Auschwitz, Treblinka, Sobibor, those names everyone knows. But in Belarus? In the forests and villages of the occupied Soviet Union? Nearly 2 million people died in ways the history books barely mention. No gas chambers. No railway selections. Just bullets. And fire. And orders. June 1942. Minsk. A briefing room. SS Oberfuhrer Erich von dem Boxeluski addresses his commanders. He's 43. A veteran. A man who's personally overseen mass executions across the Soviet Union. He tells them, every attack on German personnel will be answered tenfold against the civilian population. The partisans survive because the villages feed them. Remove the villages, and you remove the partisans. Not precision. Not intelligence. Not targeted operations. A hammer. Strike broadly. Strike without distinction. Strike until there's nothing left to strike. The order that follows in February 1943 is explicit. Everything that may give shelter or protection is to be destroyed. The area is to become no man's land. All inhabitants are to be shot. Cattle, grain, and other products are to be taken. One operation. 1 month. 12,718 people dead. And carrying out those orders? Schutzmannschaft Battalion 118. Company Commander? Hauptmann Hans Welka. The Golden Arm had found new work. To understand what happened, you need to understand what Belarus had become. When Germany invaded the Soviet Union on June 22, 1941, Belarus had 9 million people. By war's end, 1.7 million would be dead. That's 1 in 5 people. Not soldiers, people. 700,000 prisoners of war. 500,000 Jews. And hundreds of thousands of civilians killed in anti-partisan operations. Think about that phrase. Anti-partisan operations. It sounds military. Strategic. Clean. It wasn't. The landscape itself made Belarus a nightmare. Dense forests. Vast marshlands. Perfect for guerrilla warfare. By late 1942, over 47,000 Soviet partisans operated behind German lines, attacking supply convoys, cutting railway lines, sabotaging communications. For the Germans, this was intolerable. The partisans threatened the logistics feeding army groups center. The response wasn't surgical. It was systematic extermination. 5,295 Belarusian settlements burned and destroyed. In the Vitebsk region alone, 243 villages were burned twice. 83 villages burned 3 times. 22 villages burned 4 or more times. The occupiers murdered all inhabitants of 629 villages. Erased them. Made them no man's land. This wasn't collateral damage. This was policy. And the instrument of that policy? Units like Schutzmannschaft Battalion 118. These weren't regular Wehrmacht. These were auxiliary police battalions, recruited from Soviet POWs, local collaborators, Ukrainian nationalists. Men who'd switched sides. Men with scores to settle. Battalion 118 formed in July 1942 in Kiev. Ukrainian nationalists at its core. German SS officers commanding. By December, they're transferred to Belarus, stationed 30 kilometers south of a village called Khatyn. From January 1943 onward, they'd participate in dozens of pacification operations. Operations with names like Hornung, Kapis, Erntefest. 627 villages affected. They operate alongside SS Sonderkommando Drohwanger, a unit composed largely of convicted criminals, rapists, murderers, men released from prison specifically to kill partisans and civilians. And commanding Battalion 118's Elite 1st Company? Hans Welka. Age 31. Olympic champion. The Golden Arm of Berlin 1936. Now leading men through burning villages in the dead zones of Belarus. The transformation wasn't sudden. Welka was born February 18, 1911, in East Prussia. Joined the Berlin police force in 1930. Trained at the police sports school. For 6 years, he struggled to break 15 meters. Injuries set him back repeatedly. He almost quit. But he changed his training. Added sprinting. Fixed his leg work. By 1934, he was German champion. Then came 1936. Olympic gold. Hitler's handshake. Himmler's promotion. The regime saw exactly what it wanted, a tall, blonde, physically dominant German male proving Aryan superiority on the world stage. In 1937, Welka set an indoor world record. Won the British AAA Championships. Bronze at the 1938 European Championships in Paris. German champion from 1934 to 1938. And again in 1941 and 1942. On July 10, 1941, he married with Himmler's personal approval, as required for SS and police members. His wife Edith never remarried after his death. By the time the war shifted east, Welka had transitioned from athlete to police captain, prison camp guard, then battalion company commander. The first company had a reputation. Private Hryry Spivak later testified. The first company was the cruelest and most devoted to the Germans. Most, if not all of them, were nationalists from Western Ukraine. This was Welka's unit. This was the company whose members would, within weeks of his death, be directly responsible for destroying Khatyn. The Golden Arm now commanded men whose principal function wasn't sport. It was annihilation. But what happened next would change everything.